Well, welcome back to another Stand with Foursquare
Episode 3.
Mancast. We are in episode 3 as we've been diving through the life of Samson and talking about all things men's discipleship here at Stand with Foursquare. And we're back again as we talk about this week how we're talking about strength misused. And I know as a guy, man, I want to be strong. I mean, I want to be strong mentally. I want to be strong physically.
Yeah.
I want to be strong emotionally. I probably lack a little bit more in that one. But there's just an idea of strength that has me captivated. And I spend a lot of time in my own life just thinking about how do I become stronger? What is it about the masculine soul that draws us to the idea of strength, whether it's physical, mental, emotional?
Yeah. I think part of God's wiring us is to be providers. And there's lions and tigers and bears out there that we got to subdue. We got to, and it's a competitive world, right? That's part of the nature of even how we achieve. We're wired that way, being the hunters and the gatherers. There's just that God wired us in that. Even in God's design, Adam and Eve in the garden, you look at the beginning of the story, and even with the curse, he tells Adam, he says, okay, you're going to work the ground, but now you're going to face resistance. There's going to be thorns. There's going to be thistles, and your work is going to be challenged. There's going to be resistance against it. And so what happens, I know you well know, Jonathan, what if somebody tells you, you can't do that?
Oof. That's like the worst thing you could say.
Don't
to
tread
me.
on me!
That's right.
And you're going to push and resist against
I do
that.
not like the boundaries.
And I learned that early on in working with you. I was like, don't tell Jonathan something directly. No, I had to come at a 180, not come head like this, head on, but hey, how do we come like this? And the times we did that, it didn't work out. But so there's something in us where it's like, I want to be strong. And then I think one of our greatest fears, if we're all really, really honest, if we strip back all the layers, my greatest fear is to be perceived as not strong, not competent, not capable, not able to provide, lazy. I don't have it figured out. And so in an attempt to try to quell that deepest fear in us, we project this image of strength.
Yeah.
And it can lead to all kinds of problems.
Yeah. I often think, I know for myself, I have this idea of strength, and then I try to live into that and realize that my idea of what I think strength is probably not God's best or idea of what strength is. We see this in the life of Samson. He's given this, different than anybody else in Scripture, he's given this gift of superhuman strength is what it seems like.
Yeah, it comes on Samson in these bizarre times and ways.
Yeah, and he uses it at bizarre times and ways, and it seems like he uses it sometimes for God's purpose, and then there's other times that we see he uses it for his own purpose. So maybe you could speak a little bit to what is godly strength, and how do we use our strength? How are we supposed to use our strength?
I think godly strength is when we use the strength that God's given it for the benefit of others.
Yeah, that's good. Say that again, louder.
So when we use our strength for the benefit of others, we've thrown that phrase toxic masculinity. Here's what toxic masculinity is: using your strength for your benefit.
Yep.
To position yourself to be on the top of the heap. You remember as a kid you played King of the Hill? I'm going to use my strength to exert my dominance on others for my benefit.
Yeah.
And God in His kingdom, just as what Jesus modeled for us, I'm gonna become weak. I'm gonna become finite. I'm gonna become human. Limit my strength for the benefit of others, and that's the God we serve, is who has always been leveraging His strength for our benefit. And so, if you want your wife to really love you and desire you and want you, leverage your strength for her benefit.
Yeah.
And what is these things of gaslighting and all these things? It's where I manipulate everything, so everything is to my benefit. That's dysfunction. Many of us probably grew up in homes like that, where a mom or a dad, they use their strength, dominance, their position of power to get their way.
Yep.
Versus leveraging all of their strength for the benefit of their children, for the benefit of their spouse.
Yeah.
And that's what God, even Philippians chapter 5 and 6, where Paul lays out a family, we read that, it's like, wives, submit to your husbands. But verses before that is, as Christ died for the church, men, die for your wives.
Leverage
die for your wife. Die for your children. Leverage your strength for the benefit of others.
Good.
And Most of us don't know how to do that.
Yeah. It's so funny. I know I grew up as a little brother. I'm the youngest of three. Strength was often used against me as somebody exerted their
Held down
will
until you
over
peed your
me,
pants.
right?
I have two older brothers too.
That's right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So I learned, and I've been learning, or I kind of just molded in me that nobody's going to use their strength for me, but they're going to use their strength against me. Mm-hmm. And so the way to make my way through the world is I can't count on anybody else to use their strength for me. I have to use my strength for myself. That is such a broken way to see the world. And what I'm coming to realize now as 3 young kids and my wife, like I see how me using my strength for myself in my relationships with my kids and my wife causes devastation.
It always works opposite of what you think it's going to do, right?
So much worse than I would think. I think there's a point to just say, do we really trust that God is going to contend and use his strength for us? Yeah. Has there been things in your life that have kind of helped you? You know, he is our fortress. He is our strong tower. We read all these scriptures. How do we trust his strength in our lives?
Yeah, I think that is probably like the biggest journey of trust, faith, discipleship, becoming like Jesus is learning that God's my defender, God's my protector, and God's my provider. There's a scripture in the Old Testament that says that vengeance is mine. Ooh, yeah. And I want like when someone wrongs me, but the scripture says, vengeance is mine, not saith Tim, but saith the Lord. And the book of Isaiah, the Old Testament speak about this as part of the prophetic promise of Jesus, is that, man, even the wrongs that are done to me, and we've all been mistreated, right? Mm-hmm. Life hasn't been fair. And this sounds weak. It sounds like, oh, this is not tough. But actually, through some counseling and sitting and having someone speak into my life and sharing the deepest things in my life, having to navigate that is recognizing that, okay, God, you got my back. And I might not see it in my life. I might not see it in the day. I might not see it in the moment. But we're in this for the long haul. Yeah. And the ultimate actually point of relationship with God is ultimate redemption of everything.
Yeah.
And that it sounds difficult because you might not even see it in this lifetime. But we're playing the long game. And the long game is much different than I want my pound of flesh. I want things to be fair. I want things to be right. Mm-hmm. And that's a struggle we all face.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last week, and it was just a common biblical theme that we see that I wrestle against, but that in our weakness, he's made strong. And then Jesus even says in Sermon on the Mount that the meek shall inherit the earth. Now, inheriting the earth, and in our minds, we're like, all right, kingship, rulership, I'm in charge, I'm inheriting the earth. But the meek inherit the earth. Meekness is not something we often associate with strength.
No, and meekness isn't weakness.
And so talk to that a little bit.
Yeah. I think meekness, it is kind of a bizarre concept. It's hard to even probably put in our modern language. But meekness is this idea of actually constrained power, constrained force.
Yep.
And one of the beautiful things in the gospel, and I've seen it in my life, and this is the joy of just the unique position of being a pastor, is the greatest stories are the broken people that God puts back together.
Yeah.
It's not the people who came out a Yeti and are a Yeti the whole time, right? And they could just withstand, go drive over my truck, and it's a Yeti. It's still going to do everything. But this is a story of my life. Mm-hmm. Is I perceived all of my strength, all of who I am. This is what I was, and God has lovingly been destroying me and rebuilding me, destroying me and rebuilding me, and that's the strength, right? Is the parts like when you break your bone. Right, where it grows back and it's stronger than stuff around us, and that's the loving Father. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. Like, does God punish me? Does He cause this stuff to happen in my life? I don't know, but I know that God's working, and that's the beautiful story. Is that when we're crushed and we're remade, we're crushed and we're remade. That's where God does His best work.
Yeah, it's where He actually strengthens us. So it's in the breaking. We have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to be broken, so that we can actually be built back up to become stronger.
And this is the saddest part of the story of Samson. That doesn't happen until the last moment of his life.
Yeah.
Think if Samson would have come to this, he's chained between these big pillars. He's blind. He's at the bottom. He's at the bottom of the bottom. But there's a little scripture in there that says, and his hair began to grow again after Delilah. So God can redeem anything, but Samson never comes to the point of dealing with his own junk.
Yeah.
And I think in our modern world, this is the journey that men have to face. You have to deal with your junk.
Yep.
and so a lot of theologians, a lot of Christians talk about this is we have to be willing to go. You have to go back a little bit to go forward. Yeah. And we all got daddy issues. We've been reading books in our mentor groups, The Intentional Father, The Father Wound. It's have you run into a guy who doesn't have a father wound yet?
Not yet.
And the scary part, Jonathan, is I've got 2 sons, and here's what I'm recognizing. In their early 20s, I'm recognizing some of the wounds that I've inflicted on them already. Yeah. And I'm paying for their therapy. as I said I would. But that's part of the nature of what it means to be, because we're all imperfect fathers. Yeah. So that core of how do you do weakness, here's the courage. This is the strongest thing you have to do, is you have to pull back the curtain and be like, what's really in here? Yeah. What are my real motivations? What's the story I tell myself? And I think for many people, that's, a counselor, a process, groups, having good friends who will speak truth into you. I think the greatest thing that you can do that is the strongest thing is allow people to actually tell you the truth, who love you, tell you the truth in love. And that's what can often break us, and God reuses us. And if you're just all strength all the time, you're fatigued, you're worn out. Yep.
And you alluded to this. That's kind of how Samson navigated his journey. And even if you go back, beginning, we talked about this last week too, but Samson was called out since birth. Yeah. So he was called out. He had a mission. He had a purpose. And then with that mission and purpose, he was given a gift, the gift of this strength. Yeah. And that purpose with that power was to govern and help.
To lead the people, for the benefit of others.
For the benefit of others, to lead a kingdom, right? Yeah. And I was reading the book, Becoming a King, Morgan Schneider, a great book. And he asks this question in the book. He says, can you be the type of man who that God can entrust with his power to lead your kingdom? And the idea being that God has given all of us areas of influence, little kingdoms, whether it's your family or your job, your business owner, wherever it is. We all have these little kingdoms.
Yeah. Areas of influence.
Areas of influence that we are entrusted to lead and to exert our strength for the good of others. How do we become the type of men that can be entrusted with God's power to lead our kingdoms?
You got to deal with your crap.
Got to deal with our crap.
Pete Scazzaro says this is you have to go through the wall. Yeah. Right. So in our discipleship, he has a 6-stage model, and stage 4 is you hit the wall, and there's no way over the wall. There's no way around the wall. You have to go through the wall, and that means you have to take the journey within. Samson, you may read that. If you read this, he's engaged to be married. It looks like he's married. He goes back. His wife is given to his buddy, a companion. Then, in fear, they burn his wife and his father-in-law.
Fear that Samson's going to take revenge for the wrong done to him. Right?
So, that's like jacked up. There's nothing worse than they burn your wife to death, and then your father-in-law gives your wife to another man. Yeah. And there is no place where Samson deals with that. Yeah. How does he deal with it? Rage, anger, violence. Yeah. He uses his strength and catches a bunch of fox. Yeah. I don't know how he did that. And burns it. He's superhuman strength and a fox whisperer. But here's what if you don't deal with your strength, if you don't deal with your hurts and your pains, here's what happens. Anger. Yep. Revenge. Misuse power. Destruction. And so many of us, we're trying to do the best we can. But even our best efforts, without dealing with our stuff, allowing God to heal the deep stuff in us, our best efforts are it comes out as anger. Yep. We've talked about this many times. Is most guys have a default emotion, and most guys, when they don't know what to feel, what do they feel?
They feel anger.
They feel anger. That's our go-to. Samson, he didn't know what to feel. His wife is dead, burned alive. What does he do? I want to be angry. Yeah. He's not sad. What would be a normal response?
Sadness, grief.
Pain. He did not process any of his emotions. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things in here. His unprocessed emotions lead to the weakness in the hands of a woman. I mean, that's a whole nother Delilah deal. Like that women, I think for us in our modern world, pornography is the same thing that steals our strength. Unprocessed pain we cover it up with stuff.
Yeah.
Alcohol, pornography, and what we think is a coping mechanism actually kills us, and it just saps our strength.
Yeah. Overcoming the things that are in our lives that kind of hold us down, that are vices, overcoming those things, not through sheer force or willpower.
Yeah,
but through.
They're a symptom. Here's what it is. Your porn addiction is a symptom of a deeper heart issue.
Yep.
You come home and you're stressed out, and the only way you know how to wind down is you grab a couple of beers, you grab a drink.
Yep.
That's a symptom.
Yep.
And we often think, oh, the symptom's the problem. No, there is some deeper thing that is causing you to act out in that way.
Yep.
And until you have the courage to say, I got to figure out what that thing is, you'll just go from, all right, I'm going to stop looking at porn. But then there'll be another, I'm going to stop drinking. You go from one thing to another, and that's not the freedom that God has for John 10:10. I have come to give you life and life to the fullest. And the enemy has come to rob, steal, and destroy.
Yep.
And if we don't deal with our crap, deal with our pain, we're just going to go from one thing that Satan robs from us to another one.
Yep.
And we don't experience the abundance of life, the human flourishing, life and life to the fullest, unless you take the journey within. Peter, this great disciple, his journey, he did not become the man that God called. He had flashes of brilliance. Mm-hmm. He's the one who says, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. But it's not until he dealt with his crap, and it's him and Jesus on the banks of the Sea of Galilee, and he dives into the stuff that's deep in his heart, that God calls him, refines him, and gives him a purpose.
Yeah.
And so many of us, we want our purpose, we want our identity, but it's going to be a malformed thing until we deal with some of that stuff. And it's not like one day I'm like, oh, I've dealt with all of my stuff, I'm perfect now. It's
good now.
You know, it's funny. I sit with a lot of people. Have you ever watched the show Alone on the History Channel?
Oh, yeah.
My wife and I watch all the time, and we know when someone's getting ready to tap out, because here's what they start talking about. They start talking about their wife, the kids, and especially their parents.
Yeah.
My dad, my mom. I've sat with so many people near the end of their lives as they're getting sick. That's one of the things, a pastor, and it shocks me. I can't think of any person who in those last days, as they're processing their life, they're not thinking back about their parents.
Wow.
They're not thinking about their father wound, their mother wound, things they regret, things that their parents didn't offer them, or celebrating the great stories of the things that their parents deposited into their life. It's fascinating. 80, 90-year-old people are talking about their parents. You would not think that that's what it is, but it's so formative to us. It's our first primary connection relationship. And it's the greatest thing, but it's also the thing that causes some challenges. And you have to go through the healing. And if you don't, here's what you do. You blame people.
Yeah.
And there's just a whole bunch of young people right now who are dealing with their pain. It's just in the wrong direction. They're blaming their parents versus recognizing, oh, my parents were imperfect. They caused some pain. I have to be healed. I have to go through the process of healing it. Yeah. It's not their fault.
Yep.
I can't blame them. And we both know how many parents they're separated from their kids right now because their kids are blaming them. And that's not helpful. That just reproduces the pain. Yep. And it just creates the cycle.
Yep.
But saying, hey, I got to deal with the pain. And it's not for blame. It's for, okay, this is part of me that's malformed.
Yeah.
There's a wound here. God, I need you to heal. It's not anybody's fault.
Yep.
And you have a couple siblings, like, right? Isn't it funny? We grew up in the same home, same experiences, and we have really different experiences with how we experience the parenting of our parents.
Absolutely.
You have 3 different kids.
Yep. All experiencing something very different.
Experiencing different, right? And it's so bizarre. So it's not a blame. This is the reality of a broken world.
Yeah.
This is a reality of growing up in a complex modern culture. I gotta, and this isn't just a modern problem. Samson didn't deal with this crap.
Yeah.
And so he destroys, and it leads him to a blinded, weakened state.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because even in the blinded, weakened state at the end of his life, is where he finally calls out beyond himself and says, he owns his stuff at the end. He says, Lord, I don't deserve it.
I don't deserve it.
I've misused everything, but if you would grant me the strength one last time
And he even has to ask somebody, hey, help me. He can't even lead himself.
Yeah.
He asks somebody, hey, will you put me against the pillar?
Yeah.
He's so weak.
Yep.
And it's in the weakness he actually fulfills his purpose.
He actually finds it.
That God's called him to lead this nation and defeat the enemies. But when he's trying to do it on his own, it's just destruction, it's pain, it's grief. But he's led by he can't even see. And a guy takes him to the pillars, and then God, give me one last chance. And if he would have done that in chapter 12, if he would have done that in chapter 13, think of how this story would be so different.
Yeah. Your strength misused will lead you to destruction every single time eventually.
And not only in you, but here, men, this is the problem. Your undealt with stuff doesn't just hurt you. Yep. It hurts everyone you're called to love and protect.
Yep. I think at the end, as we kind of bring this to a close, the thing that I love in the story of Samson, and it's the thing that we see, and you brought up Peter, we see it in Peter's life, and we see it time and time and time and time again. We misuse our strength. We fall into brokenness and selfishness and all of these things. And it is always, if we're willing to call out God's loving kindness.
Help me, God.
That brings us back. That no matter how many times we've misused our strength, no matter how many times we've abused his grace, if we actually come to a point in saying, Lord, I'm sorry. He is faithful and will forgive and extend his kindness to us over and over and again. And I know that's been huge in my life because there have been plenty of times that I've misused my strength for the glory of myself.
I've disqualified myself.
And I'm just thankful that God has extended his kindness and continues to do so. So, hey guys, if you're listening to this, you may have misused your strength. You may be currently misusing your strength, like I know I have. Hey, God's loving compassion and kindness will always bring you back.
And your hair will begin to grow. That's the promise of how this story ends, and his hair your strength can begin to grow again.
Yep. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you, and be on the lookout for the next episode coming out next week.
Guys, keep showing up. Love and believe in you.